On the day I graduated, I opened Instagram and saw that my family had surprised my sister with a trip to Italy. Under the photos, my mom commented, "She's the only one who makes us proud." I didn't argue or post anything back. I just smiled, logged into the bank account, and clicked withdraw. Can you imagine the gut-wrenching pain of realizing, on the biggest day of your life, that your own family would rather celebrate someone else, using money they stole from you, and then declare on social media that she's the only one who makes them proud? That's exactly what happened to me, on my college graduation day, a betrayal so deep it still echoes. The auditorium air was thick with the scent of roses and nervous excitement. I fiddled with my cap for what felt like the 100th time, just one of 200 graduates buzzing with anticipation in the staging area. Outside, I could hear families shouting, cameras clicking, balloons bobbing, all the sounds of a joyful celebration. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Probably my roommates wishing me luck. I pulled it out, and there it was, an Instagram notification. My younger sister, Avery, had posted something. The photo loaded slowly, and then I saw it. Avery, standing in front of the Trevi Fountain in Rome, wearing oversized sunglasses, that same smug smile she'd perfected in high school, the one that just screamed, "Everything comes easy to me." The caption? It hit me like a physical blow, "Surprise graduation trip. Best parents ever." My thumb hovered over the screen, trembling. Avery had graduated from community college 2 weeks ago with an associate's degree. Here I was, about to walk across the stage with a Bachelor of Science in Computer Engineering from one of the top programs in the country, summa cum laude, with a job offer already signed at a major tech firm in Austin. I scrolled to the comments, my heart hammering. The very first one gutted me. My mother had written, "She's the only one who makes us proud. Our beautiful girl deserves the world." 43 likes already. Aunt Ruth had piled on with heart emojis. Family friends I'd known my whole life were adding their congratulations. "Graduates, please line up alphabetically," a coordinator called out. I moved mechanically, my body on autopilot. The girl ahead of me was openly sobbing happy tears, fixing her makeup. Behind me, some parents had snuck backstage for one last hug. All around me was pure joy, anticipation, the culmination of 4 years of relentless, backbreaking work. And I was just rereading that comment, over and over, "She's the only one who makes us proud." My phone stayed clutched in my hand through the entire ceremony. I walked when my row stood. I climbed the stage steps when my name was called. Patricia Richardson, graduating summa cum laude, recipient of the Goldstein Excellence Award for Outstanding Achievement in Computer Engineering. I shook the dean's hand. Accepted my diploma. Smiled for the photographer. The whole time, my mother's words burned behind my eyes. Just last week, I'd called them to confirm they were coming. "We'll see, honey," my mom had said, using that vague, non-committal voice she always did. "It's a long drive and your father's been so tired lately. Plus, Avery needs help with some things." "It's my college graduation," I'd said quietly. "I know, sweetie. We're very proud. We'll try our best." They hadn't tried anything. They'd bought plane tickets to Italy instead. After the ceremony, I stood there, a lone island in a sea of celebrating families, watching everyone else get swept into hugs. My roommate, Jessica, found her parents and burst into tears. Professor Kim was congratulating students, snapping pictures. Someone had brought an entire sheet cake. I opened Instagram again. Avery had added to her story now, a video of herself twirling outside the Colosseum, laughing, as my father filmed her. He looked healthier than he had in years. Not tired at all. That night, back in my empty apartment, I sat at my desk and stared at my diploma. The thing I'd sacrificed everything for. For years of 18-hour days, tutoring jobs, and research positions to pay what scholarships didn't cover. Missing parties, spring breaks, normal college experiences, because I was always studying. I thought about being 12 years old, showing my parents my report card. Straight A's for the 5th year running. My mother had glanced at it while cooking dinner. That's nice, dear. Did you see that Avery made the cheerleading squad? We're so excited for her. Avery had been 8. I'd been carrying a 4.0 for my entire academic career. I thought about being 16, winning the regional science fair. I called my parents from the competition, voice shaking with excitement. That's wonderful, my dad had said. Listen, we're at Avery's dance recital right now. Can we talk about this later? They'd forgotten to call back. I thought about being 19, calling home during my first semester at university. I just aced my hardest exam. My mother interrupted me halfway through. Oh, Patricia, I have to go. Avery just texted that she needs us to come get her from soccer practice. Every achievement, every award, every accomplishment met with distraction at best, dismissal at worst. And Avery, who'd barely maintained a C average through high school, who'd partied her way through 2 years at community college, who'd never worked harder than she absolutely had to for anything. Italy. Pride. A public declaration that she was the only child worth celebrating. Something snapped inside me. I opened my laptop. 6 years ago, when I turned 18, my grandfather had passed away. He'd left his 3 grandchildren equal inheritances, $50,000 each for me, Avery, and our cousin Trevor. But Avery and I were minors in terms of accessing the money, so it had been placed in trust accounts our parents managed. When I turned 18, my parents had convinced me to keep my money in the account. It's safer this way, my dad had said. You're so busy with school, you don't need the distraction of managing finances. We'll keep it invested for you until you graduate. I'd been naive enough to believe them, trusting enough to hand over the account passwords when they'd said it was for security purposes, focused enough on my studies that I hadn't thought much about the money sitting there, until now. I logged into the bank's website. The account was still under my name. They'd never changed that, at least. I'd checked it occasionally over the years, watching the balance grow with interest. It had reached $63,247.18. My hand trembled as I clicked through the menus, savings account, withdrawal amount, all of it. The bank would need verification for a transfer this large. I set it up to move into my personal checking account, the one I'd opened freshman year for paychecks from the campus library, the one my parents didn't know existed. The transaction went through. Processing time, 3 business days. I sat back in my chair, staring at the confirmation screen. Something cold and certain had settled in my chest, right where the hurt had been burning. Sunday afternoon, my phone rang. Mom. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. Then my father called. Then, hilariously, Avery called. I turned my phone off and went to the gym. When I turned it back on 2 hours later, I had 17 missed calls and a series of increasingly frantic texts. Mom, Patricia, call me immediately. There's been some kind of banking error. Mom, this is serious. Someone has accessed your account. Dad, Patricia, pick up your phone. We need to talk about your account. Avery, WTF, did you do something to your bank account? Mom is freaking out. And then, finally, the real message from my mother, how could you do this? That money was for your future. We were keeping it safe for you. You've made a terrible mistake. Call us now. I made myself a cup of tea. Ordered Thai food. Watched 3 episodes of a show I'd been meaning to catch up on. At 9 p.m., I finally texted back, hi Mom, thanks for asking. The graduation ceremony was beautiful. I walked across the stage, summa cum laude. It was a really special moment. Wish you could have been there. 3 dots appeared immediately. Disappeared. Appeared again. Mom, Patricia Christine Whitmore. This is not the time for your attitude. You withdrew all of your money without discussing it with us. That is incredibly irresponsible. Actually, it's my money. Grandpa left it to me. I'm 22 years old. I can withdraw my own funds. Mom, we've been managing that money for you. We had plans for it. You've completely disrupted everything. Me, what plans? The dots appeared and disappeared for a full minute. Mom, investment opportunities. Your future. You wouldn't understand. Me, try me. Mom, we don't appreciate this tone. You're being very selfish. I set the phone down. My hands were steady. I felt nothing but a crystal clear certainty. Me, how much did the Italy trip cost? No response. Me, flights for 3 people to Rome, hotels, spending money. I'm guessing around $8,000, maybe $10,000? Mom, that is none of your business. Me, did you use my money for it? Mom, we've used all of our resources to raise you girls. Everything we do is for this family. Me, did you use my inheritance to send Avery to Italy while missing my college graduation? The dots appeared and disappeared 3 times. Dad, from Mom's phone, Patricia, your mother is very upset. You need to apologize and we'll discuss transferring the money back. Me, no. Dad, excuse me? Me, I said no. It's my money. I'm keeping it. What happened next was almost funny in its predictability. My phone exploded. They'd used my inheritance before. That much became clear from the increasingly desperate messages. Not just for Italy. For Avery's car, which they'd bought her last year. For the addition they'd put on the house. For home repairs. Vacations. Avery's shopping habits. They'd been treating my $50,000 like a family slush fund while I'd been eating ramen and working 3 part-time jobs to avoid taking out more student loans than absolutely necessary. We were always going to pay it back, my father insisted in a voicemail. This was temporary borrowing between family. You stole from me, I said, when I finally answered a call on Monday evening. My voice was calm, almost eerily so. For years, you stole money that Grandpa specifically left to me. We did not steal, my mother snapped. We are your parents. We managed your funds. There's a difference. You bought Avery a $23,000 car with my inheritance while I was driving a 15-year-old Honda that broke down twice a month. Avery needed reliable transportation for school. I needed reliable transportation for school. I needed a lot of things. But I worked for them, because I thought my inheritance was sitting safely in an account, growing, waiting for when I actually needed it. You're being incredibly ungrateful, my mother said, her voice gone cold. After everything we've done for you, like what? I cut her off. Like missing every important moment of my life? Like forgetting my birthday 3 years running? Like taking my little sister to Europe during my college graduation and posting on Instagram that she's the only child who makes you proud? Silence. You saw that? My mother finally said. Everyone saw it, Mom. You posted it publicly. Avery had been feeling down about her grades. I was trying to encourage her by erasing me. I heard the rationalization forming in real time. You've always been so independent, Patricia. You never needed us the way Avery does. You just do your own thing. Get your perfect grades. Handle everything yourself. Avery needs more support. And there it was. The truth. They probably never consciously acknowledged it, but they'd acted on it my entire life. I'd been too easy, too self-sufficient. I hadn't demanded their attention, so I hadn't gotten it. I kept achieving, thinking eventually they'd notice. They'd care. They'd be proud. Avery had struggled and pouted and needed, and she'd gotten everything. I needed you, too, I said quietly. I just didn't fall apart when you weren't there. I hung up. Over the next week, they tried everything. Anger, you're destroying this family over money. Guilt, your grandfather would be so disappointed in you. Manipulation, Avery is devastated. She looked up to you, and now you've shown her how selfish you really are. That last one almost made me laugh. Avery hadn't looked up to me since she was 6 years old and realized our parents would give her anything she wanted while I had to earn every scrap of approval I got. And even then, it was never enough. I blocked their numbers. I blocked Avery's number. I blocked extended family members who started reaching out on my mother's behalf. I kept them unblocked on social media, though, not out of hope for reconciliation, but because I needed to see the truth of who they were. Dr. Brennan would later tell me this was a form of self-protection, keeping one eye on people who'd hurt me, staying aware of their lives from a safe distance. The silence that followed was strange at first. I'd spent 22 years conditioned to feel anxious about their approval, to check my phone, hoping for acknowledgement that never came. Now my phone stayed quiet, and instead of relief, I felt unmoored. My new coworker, Tasha, noticed me staring at my blank screen during lunch one day, my third week on the job. "Family stuff?" she asked, settling into the chair across from me with her salad. I barely knew her, but something about her directness made me honest. "How'd you know?" "You've got that looks like you're waiting for a bomb to drop look." She speared a cherry tomato. "Let me guess, they weren't happy about something you did for yourself." The whole story came out. Not the inheritance part, not yet. But the graduation, the Italy trip, the Instagram comment. Tasha listened without interrupting, her expression shifting from sympathy to outright anger. "That's absolutely vile," she said when I finished. "My parents pulled similar garbage. Took me 3 years of therapy to realize I wasn't the problem." "You're in therapy?" "No," I admitted. "Best decision I ever made. My company insurance covers it." "Same plan you're on, actually." She pulled out her phone and texted me her therapist's contact information. Dr. Sarah Brennan. She specializes in family systems and childhood emotional neglect. Changed my whole perspective. I stared at the contact information for 2 days before I called. The first available appointment was 3 weeks out. I took it. Dr. Brennan's office was nothing like I'd expected. No leather couch, no notepad, just 2 comfortable chairs, soft lighting, and a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and an extremely direct communication style. "Tell me why you're here," she said in our first session. I told her everything. She didn't react with shock or gushing sympathy. She just listened, occasionally asking clarifying questions. When I finished, she sat back. "Do you know what parentification is?" I shook my head. It's when a child is put in the role of meeting their parents' emotional needs instead of the reverse. You learned very young that your needs didn't matter, that your job was to be easy, to not make waves, to handle everything yourself. That's a survival strategy, not a character trait. Something shifted in my chest. I always thought I was just independent. "Independence that's chosen is healthy," she continued. "Independence that's forced on a child because the adults won't step up is neglect." She leaned forward. "Your parents taught you that love was conditional on being perfect and undemanding. Then they gave all their attention to your sister, who was neither of those things. That's not a reflection of your worth. That's a reflection of their limitations as parents." I cried through most of that first session. And the second. By the third, I was starting to feel something I'd never experienced before, righteous anger on behalf of my younger self. The 12-year-old with straight A's who'd been ignored. The 16-year-old science fair winner who'd been interrupted. The 19-year-old who'd stopped calling home because it hurt too much to hear the disinterest in their voices. "What do I do with this anger?" I asked Dr. Brennan. "You let yourself feel it. Anger is information. It tells you a boundary was crossed. For you, about 1,000 boundaries were crossed, and you never let yourself acknowledge it." Between therapy sessions, I threw myself into work. My project lead, Marcus, was everything a mentor should be, challenging but supportive, demanding but fair. He noticed when I contributed good ideas. He remembered details I'd mentioned in previous meetings. One afternoon, 6 weeks into the job, he stopped by my desk. "That optimization you suggested for the database query? We implemented it. Cut processing time by 40%. I mentioned your contribution in the stakeholders meeting. I froze. You gave me credit? He looked puzzled. Of course. It was your idea. Such a small thing. Such a normal professional interaction. But I had to excuse myself to the bathroom because tears were burning in my eyes. I texted Tasha. Is it weird that I almost cried because my boss gave me credit for my work? She responded immediately. Tasha, not weird. Trauma response. You're not used to being seen. It gets easier. She was right. Slowly, over weeks and months, it did get easier. I started making friends beyond Tasha. Our team would go out for drinks on Fridays, and people actually wanted to hear about my weekend. They remembered things I'd told them. When I mentioned loving mystery novels, my coworker Jake brought me a book recommendation the next week. When I was stressed about my first major presentation, the whole team sent me encouraging messages. This was what normal felt like. People who showed up. People who cared without keeping score. 3 months in, my apartment lease was up. I'd been planning to renew, but Tasha mentioned her building had a vacancy. It's a great location, and there's this whole community vibe. We do monthly potlucks, and there's a rooftop garden. Plus, I'm on the 3rd floor, so you'd have a friend in the building. I toured it the next day. The apartment was smaller than my current place, but brighter, with huge windows and a balcony overlooking downtown. The building had a gym, a co-working space, and Tasha was right about the community feel. People actually said hello in the hallways. I signed a lease that afternoon. Moving day. Tasha showed up with 3 other people from work. We're your moving crew, she announced. Nobody moves alone. I'd moved into my college apartment alone. Moved between dorms alone. I'd gotten used to handling everything solo because asking for help meant risking rejection. I don't have much stuff, I warned them. Perfect. We'll be done in 2 hours, and then we're ordering pizza. Jake was already grabbing boxes. They were right. By evening, I was unpacked and eating pizza on my new balcony with 5 coworkers who were rapidly becoming real friends. The sun set over Austin, painting the sky orange and pink, and someone made a joke that had everyone laughing. This was my life now. This was what I'd chosen. The day I clicked that withdraw button, my Aunt Ruth called from a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. Patricia, sweetheart, your mother is beside herself. Can't you just return some of the money? Meet them halfway? Did she tell you what she spent it on? Well, she mentioned some family expenses. She bought Avery a car. She took Avery to Italy. She skipped my graduation to do it. And then she posted on social media that Avery is the only child who makes her proud. Aunt Ruth went quiet. Did she tell you that part? I asked. No, Ruth said slowly. She didn't. I graduated on a Saturday. By Wednesday, I'd moved out of my college apartment. By Friday, I was in Austin, settling into a corporate apartment my new job had arranged until I found permanent housing. By the following Monday, I was starting my career as a software engineer at a company that had fought to recruit me. My starting salary was $94,000 with a signing bonus and stock options. My first-year compensation would be around $115,000. I was 22 years old. I had my inheritance secured in my personal accounts. I had no student debt. Beyond what my scholarships hadn't covered, about $18,000 total, which I could now pay off within the year. I had a career path that excited me. And I had a family who'd finally noticed I existed, now that they couldn't use me anymore. The emails started in week 2. My father, trying a different approach. We may have made some mistakes, but we love you. Family is supposed to forgive. I thought about that a lot. Actually, forgiveness. The thing about forgiveness is that it requires acknowledgement. You can't forgive someone who won't admit they did anything wrong. And my parents weren't sorry they'd stolen from me, ignored me, or diminished me. They were sorry I'd taken my money back. They were sorry they were facing consequences. My mother sent a long email detailing all the sacrifices they'd made raising me. The piano lessons I'd taken for 3 years that I paid for myself with babysitting money after the first month when they'd forgotten to pay the teacher. The family vacations where I'd been left at grandma's house 3 times out of 5 because Avery gets car sick with too many people in the vehicle. The food, shelter, and clothing, literal legal requirements for having children. She ended with, "We gave you everything. The least you can do is help us in return." I wrote back one sentence. "You gave Avery everything. You gave me a clear understanding of my worth to you. Thank you for the lesson." Avery tried next, from a new number. "Avery, Mom's crying all the time. Dad's stressed about money. You got what you wanted. You took your money. Can't you just talk to them?" Me, "Did they tell you what they spent it on?" Avery, "Family stuff, so what? That's what family does." Me, "They bought you a car with my inheritance." The dots appeared and disappeared several times. Avery, "I didn't know that." Me, "Now you do." Avery, "Well, they're our parents. They were going to help both of us eventually." Me, "When? After they spend it all on you?" Avery, "You're so bitter. This is why nobody likes you." I blocked the new number. Here's what nobody tells you about cutting off toxic family: how much lighter you feel. How much space opens up in your chest when you're not constantly bracing for the next dismissal, the next comparison, the next casual cruelty dressed up as honesty. I made friends at work, real friends who asked about my day and remembered things I told them. I went to happy hours and didn't feel like I had to perform or prove anything. I was just myself, and that was enough. 3 months in, my boss pulled me aside after a meeting. "That solution you coded for the database issue? Brilliant. You're exactly the kind of innovative thinker we need here." I waited for the but, for the qualifier, for the pivot to someone else's accomplishment. It didn't come. She just smiled and walked away. I sat at my desk and stared at my screen for 5 minutes, processing the feeling of being genuinely praised. 4 months in, I got a letter. Actual physical mail, forwarded from my old college address. My mother's handwriting. I almost threw it away. Instead, I opened it. "Patricia, I've been doing a lot of thinking. Your Aunt Ruth showed me some things about how we might have treated you differently than Avery. I don't think we meant to do that, but I'm starting to see that maybe we did. I'd like to talk if you're willing. I miss my daughter. Love, Mom." I read it 3 times. Looking for the catch, the manipulation, the angle. Maybe there wasn't one. Maybe she genuinely was realizing something. But 4 months of therapy, another thing my job's excellent health insurance covered, had taught me something important: change requires action, not just words. And a vague, "maybe we did" wasn't accountability. It was testing the waters. I put the letter in a drawer and didn't respond. 6 months in, Avery posted on Instagram about starting at a state university, pursuing a business degree. The photo showed my parents helping her move into a dorm, beaming with pride, carrying boxes. No mention of how they were paying for it, now that their slush fund had disappeared. I felt a small, petty satisfaction, then let it go. Their financial problems weren't my entertainment. 8 months in, I bought a condo. Small, modern, with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of downtown Austin. I furnished it slowly, carefully, with things I actually liked instead of hand-me-downs and college cast-offs. I hung my diploma on the wall, right in the center of my living room where I could see it every day. Summa cum laude. A year after graduation, I got promoted. My new salary was $117,000 base. I was leading a small team, working on projects that actually mattered, building a reputation in my field. My parents sent a card to my office. Someone must have given them the address. "Congratulations on your success. We always knew you'd do well. We're very proud of you. I recycled it. 15 months after I clicked withdraw, my phone rang from another unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Patricia, it's Aunt Ruth. Hi, Ruth. I'm not calling on your mother's behalf, she said quickly. I'm calling because I think you should know that your father had a health scare. He's okay. It was angina, not a heart attack. But it got me thinking about unresolved family issues. My chest tightened. Is he really okay? Yes, but Patricia, I've watched your family dynamics for a long time. I never said anything because it wasn't my place. But after our conversation last year, I started really looking, and you were right about all of it. I sat down on my couch. Ruth continued, I talked to your mother. Really talked to her. About specific incidents, things I'd witnessed. The time she missed your high school graduation for Avery's soccer tournament. The time she forgot your birthday, but threw Avery a massive sweet 16. The way she changed the subject every time you accomplished something. Okay, I said carefully. She didn't take it well at first, got very defensive, but I kept at it, and I brought your uncle into it, and we showed her patterns, evidence. She paused. Your grandfather, my father, he saw it too, you know, before he died. He told me once that he worried about you, that he saw how you were overlooked. It's why he made sure the inheritance was equal, even though your parents kept suggesting Avery needed more support. Something cracked open in my chest. My grandfather had seen me. Had known. Your mother has been going to therapy, Ruth said. I insisted on it. And your father, too. They're working on some things. I'm not telling you this because I think you owe them forgiveness or contact. I'm telling you because you deserve to know that people are finally acknowledging the truth. Thank you, I managed. You don't owe them anything, Ruth said firmly. But if you ever decide you want a relationship again, I think they might actually be capable of change now. Real change, not just words. We talked for an hour. She filled me in on family news. Avery was struggling at university, which surprised no one. My parents had gotten a financial advisor and were apparently dealing with debt they'd accumulated. Extended family drama I'd missed. It felt like talking to a friend, not an obligation. After I hung up, I pulled out my mother's letter from months ago. Read it again with new context. Maybe she had been starting to see it. Maybe therapy was helping. Maybe they were changing. But I was changing, too. I'd built a life without them. A good life. A life where I was valued and respected and seen. The question wasn't whether they deserved my forgiveness. The question was whether I wanted them back in my world, even a reformed version of them. I didn't know the answer yet, and that was okay. Dr. Brennan and I worked on this question over several months. She had me do an exercise that felt silly at first, but ended up being transformative. Write a letter to your parents, she said. Not to send, just to process. Tell them everything you need them to hear. I spent 2 weeks on that letter. It ended up being 12 pages, single-spaced. Every hurt. Every dismissal. Every moment I'd swallowed my feelings to keep the peace. The birthday parties where Avery got a celebration and I got a card. The school events they'd missed. The way my mother would sigh with impatience when I tried to share good news. I wrote about being 7 years old and winning the school spelling bee, how I'd run home bursting with pride, clutching my certificate. My mother had been on the phone with her sister, and she'd waved me away impatiently. When she'd finally hung up 20 minutes later, I tried again to tell her. That's nice, sweetie, she'd said, barely glancing at the certificate before turning back to her magazine. I wrote about being 14 and making the honor roll for the 8th consecutive semester. I'd put the certificate on the refrigerator myself because nobody else would. It had stayed there for 2 days before my mother took it down to make room for Avery's permission slip for a field trip. I wrote about every Christmas morning where Avery's pile of presents dwarfed mine. You're so much easier to shop for, my mother always said. You just like books. As if my reading habit was an inconvenience rather than something to encourage. Reading that letter back to myself in Dr. Brennan's office, I finally understood something crucial. My parents hadn't just been neglectful. They'd been actively harmful. They taught me that my value was in being invisible, in not needing anything, in making myself smaller so Avery could shine brighter. What do you want to do with this? Dr. Brennan asked. I don't know. Part of me wants to send it. Part of me thinks there's no point. What would sending it accomplish? I thought about that. It would make me feel heard, maybe, but only if they actually listened. And I'm not sure they're capable of that. So perhaps the question is, do you need them to hear it, or do you need to say it? I'd already said it. Written it. Processed it. The letter had done its job. I burned it in my fireplace that night, watching 12 pages of pain curl into ash. It felt ceremonial. Final. Work continued to be a source of unexpected joy. 10 months in, Marcus called me into his office. We're expanding the team, and I want you to interview candidates with me. You've got good instincts for people, and I think the perspective of someone who recently graduated would be valuable. I sat in on 5 interviews over 2 weeks. It was strange being on the other side of the table, asking questions instead of answering them. One candidate, fresh out of college like I'd been, was clearly brilliant but visibly anxious. After the interview, Marcus asked my opinion. She's incredibly talented, I said. Nervous, but that's understandable. I think she'd be an asset to the team. I agree. I'm glad you saw past the nerves to the potential. We hired her. Her name was Priya, and she reminded me of myself a year ago, hungry to prove herself, working twice as hard as necessary, afraid to take up space. I made a point of mentoring her the way I wish someone had mentored me. When she apologized for asking questions, I told her questions were how we learned. When she stayed late every night, I reminded her that sustainable work habits beat burnout every time. When she had a good idea but hesitated to share it, I made space for her voice in meetings. Why are you being so nice to me? She asked one day over coffee. Because someone was nice to me when I started, and it made all the difference. And because I see you working yourself to death trying to prove you deserve to be here. You already deserve to be here. We hired you because you're talented, not because you're willing to sacrifice your health. Her eyes got suspiciously shiny. My family doesn't really get what I do. They think I'm wasting my degree working in tech instead of something more traditional. Oh, I knew that feeling. Their understanding isn't required for your success, I told her. Build the life you want. The people who matter will either catch up or fall away. She became a friend as much as a colleague. Young enough that I felt protective, talented enough that I knew she'd go far. Around the same time, I started dating. Not seriously at first, just coffee dates, dinners, getting back into practice with normal human interaction outside of work and therapy. Then I met Connor at a bookstore, literally bumped into him reaching for the same mystery novel. We both laughed. He insisted I take it. We got coffee to discuss our favorite authors. He was a high school teacher, passionate about literature, thoughtful, and kind. On our third date, I mentioned that I didn't talk to my family. Is that hard? He asked, no judgment in his voice. Sometimes. Mostly it's peaceful. My family is chaos, he said. Loud. All up in each other's business. Dramatic. But they show up, you know, when it counts. I felt that familiar pang of envy, but also something new, acceptance. That sounds nice. It is. But I also recognized that not everyone gets that, and that's not their fault. He didn't push me to share details until I was ready. When I finally told him the whole story, months into dating, he listened quietly, then said, "You didn't deserve that treatment. I hope you know that's not normal." I'm starting to. Connor became part of my Austin life. My chosen family was expanding. Tasha, Jake, Priya, Marcus, Connor, others from work and my building and the book club I joined. People who valued me not for being perfect or undemanding, but for being myself. 18 months after graduation, I got an email from my university's alumni association. They were featuring distinguished young alumni in their quarterly magazine, and someone had nominated me for my work in software engineering. They wanted to interview me, take photos, write up my success story. I said yes. The journalist who interviewed me was thorough, asking about my education, my career path, my achievements. At the end, she asked if there was anyone I wanted to thank. I thought about saying my parents, the way you're supposed to, the socially acceptable answer. Instead, I said, my professors who saw my potential. My thesis advisor, Dr. Patricia Morrison, who wrote me a recommendation letter that helped me land this job. My colleagues who supported me. And honestly, myself. I worked incredibly hard to get here. The article came out 2 months later. They'd used a photo of me at my desk, looking confident and professional. The write-up highlighted my academic achievements, my rapid career advancement, the innovative project my team had launched. My parents weren't mentioned at all. I posted it on LinkedIn. The responses were overwhelmingly positive. Former professors congratulating me, colleagues sharing it, recruiters reaching out. And one message from a username I didn't recognize at first, Avery3. My sister saw your article. Guess you're doing fine without us. I stared at that message for a long time. There was bitterness in it, resentment, but also something else. Acknowledgement, maybe, that I'd moved on. I didn't respond. 2 years after graduation, I was thriving. My team had launched a product that got written up in tech journals. I'd been invited to speak at a conference. I had a friend group that felt like chosen family. I was dating someone who thought my intelligence was attractive instead of intimidating. My condo had become a home. My career had become a calling. My life had become mine. On the 2nd anniversary of my graduation, I posted a photo on Instagram. Me in front of my building, holding my diploma, professional and polished in my work clothes. Caption, 2 years ago today, I walked across the stage, summa cum laude, and nobody from my family was there to see it. Today, I'm a senior software engineer leading a team of 12. I own my home, and I'm building exactly the life I want. Turns out I was the only person I needed to make me proud. I didn't tag anyone, didn't make it pointed, just stated facts. Within an hour, it had more likes than any post I'd ever made. Comments from colleagues, friends, former professors, people celebrating me. And one comment from Aunt Ruth, your grandfather would be so proud of the woman you'd become. I know I am. My mother didn't comment. Neither did Avery. But 3 days later, another letter arrived. This one was longer, much longer. Page after page of my mother's handwriting, and it was different from the first letter. Specific. Detailed. She listed moments, times she'd dismissed me, achievements she'd barely acknowledged, comparisons she'd made, the inheritance money she'd spent. The Italy trip during my graduation. The Instagram comment. She didn't excuse any of it. Didn't justify, just acknowledged, apologized, and took responsibility. I was a bad mother to you, she wrote. I can list reasons, my own childhood, my insecurities, the way Avery's struggles activated my protective instincts while your competence made me complacent, but reasons aren't excuses. I failed you. I see that now. I'm so deeply sorry. She ended with, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect a relationship. I just needed you to know that I finally see what I did. You deserve better. You deserved everything, and you gave yourself what I should have given you, recognition, pride, support. I'm sorry I made you do it alone, but I'm grateful you were strong enough to survive my failures. I hope your life is everything you've worked for. Love, Mom. I cried reading it. Not because it fixed anything. It didn't. Not because it erased the hurt. It couldn't. But because finally, someone from my family had truly seen me. I put the letter in my desk drawer, next to my employment contract, my mortgage papers, my promotion letter, documents of the life I'd built. I didn't respond right away. Maybe I would eventually, maybe I wouldn't. The withdraw button I clicked 2 years ago had done more than transfer money. It had severed an obligation I'd been carrying my whole life, the obligation to keep trying to earn love from people who'd already decided I wasn't worth their attention. I'd taken back more than my inheritance. I'd taken back my power, my narrative, my future. And I'd learned the most important lesson. The only person who needed to make me proud was myself. I kept going to therapy. Connor and I grew closer. Work became more fulfilling as I took on bigger projects and mentored more junior engineers. My team trusted me. My manager respected me. My friends supported me. And my family stayed quiet until one evening, almost 2.5 years after graduation, I received an email from my dad. Subject: Hello, Patricia. The message was short. Patricia, I know we have no right to ask anything of you. I'm not writing to ask. Your mother showed me the letter she sent you. She meant every word. Therapy has been difficult but eye-opening for both of us. I won't pretend we didn't fail you. We did. And I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. I don't expect anything from you, but I wanted you to know I'm proud of you. Dad. I sat very still. It wasn't manipulative. It wasn't guilt-laden. It wasn't demanding. It was just honest. That night, I told Connor about it. How do you feel? He asked. I don't know. Confused, sad, relieved, angry. All of it. Do you want to respond? I thought about it. No. Not yet. Maybe someday, maybe never. But I'm glad they finally see it. He nodded. Whatever you decide, it's your choice, not theirs. Months passed. My life continued. I led a major product release. Priya got promoted and thanked me in her announcement speech, which made me cry in the bathroom. Tasha and I threw a joint birthday party on the rooftop. Connor and I went to my first ever Thanksgiving with his family, a whirlwind of laughter, noise, and warmth that left me both overwhelmed and deeply comforted. I stopped checking my feeds to see if my family had posted anything. Stopped wondering if I'd hear from them. Stopped replaying childhood memories, searching for explanations. Therapy helped me understand something profound. Some wounds don't close, because the past can't be rewritten. But you can grow around them. You can build a life so full that the hollow parts stop defining you. For years after I clicked withdraw, I stood in my condo watching the sun rise over Austin, drinking coffee from a mug Connor had bought me that said, "Proud of you," in bold letters. My diploma hung on the wall. My promotion letter was pinned to the corkboard. My friends' notes and cards and inside jokes cluttered my fridge. My future felt open, wide, mine. I picked up my mother's second letter again, read the last paragraph, then set it down gently. Maybe forgiveness would come. Maybe reconciliation. Maybe not. But I no longer needed either to feel whole. I had done what my family never managed to do for me. I showed up for myself, again and again and again. Later that morning, I logged into my bank account to transfer money into my investment portfolio. The inheritance, what was left of it after years of growth, was still there. But it meant something different now. It wasn't a symbol of what my parents took. It was a symbol of what I reclaimed. And as I closed the banking app, I whispered, not out of bitterness, but truth, I made myself proud. That was enough.